To search for a subscriber, navigate to the Manage Eligibility icon and then the Member section within. Here you can enter either the member number, which could be an SSN or an alternate ID, or you could supply a first name and a last name with the date of birth as optional. Next to each field, you can see either a red bar or a green bar. The red bar indicates that the field is required and the requirement has not yet been met. The green bar indicates if a field is optional or if the requirement has been met. For instance, if we enter a member number, you can see that the bar has changed to green, meaning we've met the requirement. You'll also notice that next to the first name and last name, those bars are also now green, meaning those fields are optional. So at a minimum, we have what we need in order to perform a search. So let's go ahead and select Search. After you've selected Search, the criteria that you've used stays at the top of the page in case you need to adjust it at any point in time, or if you need to start a new search, you can simply click Reset. And listed below will be all of the enrollments returned based on your search criteria. In this instance, I have one member that has 2 enrollments. One is active and one is inactive. In order to view an enrollment, you can click anywhere within the row. So let's go ahead and view the active record. After selecting a record to view, you are taken to their enrollment. The enrollment page will consist of several sections indicated with this green bar. Every section that has a green bar can be expanded or collapsed depending on what details you need. So for instance, if I click on this green banner, the section collapses. If I click on it again, it expands. In this first section, it's called Plan Details. It will give valuable information about the group, subgroup, and contract. Information such as, is an ID card required? What is the retroactive age limit? And what are the eligibility age limits? Scrolling down the page, the next section is Family Enrollment. This section will list all of the members that are part of the enrollment, whether they're active or inactive. In this instance, I have a subscriber and a spouse, and both are active, effective 6/1. Also listed is the coverage type. Again, in this instance, I just have a subscriber and spouse, so that's what their coverage type is. If you click on this, it acts as an anchor to the bottom of the page, which contains the coverage information history. So let's go ahead and click, and there we are. We're dropped all the way to the bottom of the page to view the coverage information section. This will list the code and the description, and also the date range that the coverage applies. Also listed is the transactional view, which will let you know when the transaction occurred, the user ID of who performed the transaction, and also the application that happened within. The next section is Member Details. This will offer details of each member within the enrollment. In this instance, we inquired on the subscriber, so it's going to default to the subscriber's details. If you need to select a different member, you can do so in 2 different ways. We can scroll back up to the Family Enrollment section, and you could click on anywhere on the spouse's record, and you can see in the member details that it's now changed to Sandy. Alternately, we have up at the top this green banner that will list the member's name and member type. All the way over on the right is something called Switch Member. This is a pop-up to let you select which member you'd like to view. So let's click on Brian. So now we're on Brian. And you'll notice that this banner stays with you as you scroll throughout the page so that no matter where you are, you can quickly switch to somebody else to view. So you don't always have to navigate to the Family Enrollment section. In Member Details, there are several different sections. For instance, we have Personal Information that would detail information such as their gender, date of birth, or name. And then just below that, we have the member ID. In the middle of the section is Eligibility, which would list their member type, their status, eligibility status reason, hire date if it applied, and their eligibility effective date. All the way over on the right is Contact Information, which would list their address, email address, phone number, and such. Below that is their eligibility history, which will indicate what coverage they've had throughout. So in this instance, I only have one slice of eligibility with an active status, and that's when my member started on 6/1. You can also see the transactional, where again you would see the transaction date of that enrollment, the user ID of who performed that action, and the application that it originated from. Also listed at the top of this section are several other things. The ID card section, which if you clicked opens up a pop-up where you can do several different things. If the group or subgroup is configured to support ID cards, you can order one, or you can also physically print one. And if you are going to take the option to physically print one, listed here is what that would look like. And again, if the member is in a group or subgroup that requires ID cards, we would have the ID card history here. If it's a new ID card or a reorder, and also the date ordered and the date that's been mailed. Let's go ahead and close that. The second section is the history section. This is where you could get details on their address history, attribute history, or person history. Let's go ahead and click on person history. In the person history section, we can see that this member's name has changed. It was originally Test and then became Brian. If we go to the transactional view, we can see what specific date that change occurred, the user who made the change, and again, the application where the change occurred. You'd have that same view for address history and attribute history. All the way over on the right are several different actions that you as a user can take. The first is Terminate, which would be a shortcut to help you terminate the member, Transfer to move them from one enrollment to another, ending the first enrollment, and then Copy would copy them into a new enrollment, maintaining their original enrollment. And then Edit, which would allow you to